Please welcome Marley Diaz, Madison Kimrey, and Naomi Wadler in conversation with Zoey Deutch.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here today to discuss confronting stereotypes, creating new norms, and embracing ambition. The definition of ambitious is the determination to succeed and intending to satisfy high aspirations. These three incredible young women have heard what ambition means loud and clear and embraced it in the most inspiring ways. I am honored and I'm privileged to be here to speak and learn from them, three forces of nature who are passionate, smart, and changing our world. Naomi, Madison, and Marley. Naomi. Hi. I read in an amazing interview you did, you were criticizing the media for their coverage. You said, "I listen on the news to how reporters identify suspects as black but never point out when they're white, and that seems like a stereotype to me." What do you think can be done about that?
So I think that raising awareness is a great way to be able to understand and identify a problem and be able to fix it. I feel that black men, black women, they might be depicted as pure criminals, and they animals. And when white men and white women, they must be mentally unstable, or there's a problem with them, or they just didn't understand what they were doing. They didn't mean to cause any harm.
Right.
And so I think that all leads back to stereotypes.
Yeah. And you talk about another stereotype that you've encountered in your life. You mentioned that a classmate, or classmates, plural, you talk about that they don't believe, they have disbelief in you being Jewish. Do you want to elaborate on that or discuss how you combat that disbelief?
Yeah, so like I said, it's stereotypes. Like, black men are criminals, black women are angry. And so maybe one stereotype is that if you're black, you can't be Jewish. If you're Muslim, you must be a terrorist. It's just stereotypes. Stereotypes is a big problem that we need to learn about and we need to identify. And with me, I think the disbelief is that part of it, that you don't see a lot of black Jews walking around the street. And part of it is that I am a black girl, and when you look at me, the first thing you don't think is Jewish. So when this boy confronted me and said that he had never seen a black Jew before, I told him that I didn't need to authenticate myself towards him. And he rolled his eyes and walked away, and that's and
You're so cool.
That's when it started all flooding back to me, because when I was a little girl and Trayvon Martin was killed, that's when I really started to think about it. And on the news, I see a black man shot up a school. A white man, oh, he was mentally unstable, there must be a problem. D'Ebony Groves is a black woman who was killed in a Waffle House, and her murderer is being offered bail. And I think we all know that if he was a black man or a man of color, that would have never happened.
Is it weird when people come up to you and say, "What's it like to be an activist all of a sudden?" Clearly you've been an activist your whole life, privately, now very publicly.
Yes.
Yeah, is that weird for you? Do you feel like it's a little condescending? Because clearly you've been so informed and so well-read and so interested and passionate and brilliant.
It's like when people tell me that I'm a rock star and that I'm awesome, I'm just like, oh, no. It's just a problem that I've identified. As I've said before, there shouldn't be an age limit to being aware and to knowing and understanding the problems around you and wanting to do something about it.
What do you think about the stereotypes that young people don't care? Clearly you do, but do you find that to be true in your class and your peers and people you encounter?
I do. It's not surprising, but it is a little degrading because the civil rights movement, the peace protests, those were mostly youth-led. And so it is degrading to those movements, and it is degrading to the movement now. The March for Our Lives, when you say that it wasn't a big deal, it's disempowering. Mm-hmm. And so when I hear that people have said about me or said about my peers or said about anybody that they're too young and that they don't care, I don't want to speak out on that. I don't want to walk onto a stage and say that they don't know what they're talking about, even if that is true. I want to go on stage and I want to talk about what I believe, and I want to identify the issues, and I want to give my opinion and my idea for a solution so that I do not prove them right by trying to fight with them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you.
That's it.
Madison.
Hi.
Madison, you talk about the vital importance of local politics. I feel like that's incredibly enlightened because most adults don't get the importance of local politics. So I wanted to ask you firsthand, how can kids get involved? How can everybody get involved?
Yeah, I think especially for young people, getting involved in local politics is the easiest thing to do, even though it's commonly like the most ignored thing. Everyone gets excited for presidential elections, but the local politics and local elections are often ignored, or that's why the voter participation is so much lower for local elections. But it's so easy to just, if young people, like, we have all of this social media available to us. We have the internet. We have all of these things that people years ago didn't have. We have these opportunities and these resources. And yes, like, looking at cute GIFs of dogs is awesome. I love doing that. But like, I can also use the internet to find who's running for office locally. I can find, they all have websites. You can go to them, you can find out when they're having volunteer events, because they are, and you can go get involved, even if it's just phone banking for an hour, or canvassing, or registering people to vote is so much fun, and it's so important. And I spent the summer of my freshman year basically registering people to vote. And it was amazing, and just having that feeling of knowing that I gave someone the ability to exercise their rights as an American citizen is incredible. And it's really easy for young people to do. And I think that's where the stereotype of young people can't get involved because we can't vote, but there's so many things that we can do, even just, again, giving an American citizen the accessibility to that right to vote by registering them, or volunteering and making people aware of when the voting dates are, because so many people I called that summer had no idea when they were even supposed to vote. So just little things like that are so important and so key in young people being able to get involved.
I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think about the stereotypes that young people don't care? Do you feel that that's true?
The stereotype is definitely very true, but I do not think that young people don't care. I think that there is a lot of apathy among young people because of the stereotype that we don't care. Why, like, obviously I'm here talking to all of you, but like, the amount of times that I faced situations, when I first got involved when I was 12 years old, it was for pre-registration in the state of North Carolina, where I'm from. And the governor of North Carolina at the time called me a prop for liberal groups when I was 12. And he's the one that's supposed to be encouraging young people to get involved.
Right.
And just things like that no young person should have to face. And thankfully, I knew better, and I fought, and I stood up, and here I am today. But I'm also 16 and pre-registered to vote in the state of North Carolina. But Things like that, but other young people might not be able to do that. And if I had not had the support system that I had, if I hadn't had a lot of the opportunities and the resources that I had, I might not be here. I might have just given up and said, I don't know what to do, but it's things like that a young person could obviously not be involved without just being a prop for adults, because I can't have my own opinions. I can't be educated. There's no way, because I'm too young. I can't vote, so what does it matter? But it does matter. And I think the three of us are really good examples of that. But yeah, I think things like that are what show young people that we shouldn't be involved. And I think that's where a lot of the apathy from us comes from, is like, why should we try to get involved if it's just going to be fight after fight after fight? But I think that's one of my biggest passions now, is changing that stereotype and changing that narrative.
Amazing, thank you. Marley, hi. Hi. Hey. In your book, you write about using social media for good. How can we do that? What are some constructive tools to use that power for good and not evil?
So the first thing I want to say, hi everybody, I'm Marley, I'm 13 years old, Madison's 16, Naomi's 11. I want you to know so you can be more amazed than you are already right now. And my book, Marley Dias Gets It Done and So Can You, is available for order right now, Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble. Okay, I'll start. I'll answer the question. I'll answer the question. I'll answer the question now. Okay, so social media has been a huge tool for me, and I started my campaign as a hashtag, and it's hashtag 1000 Black Girl Books. That was not a promo, but it is a hashtag. So it is used as a really important tool because I was able to reach people in Canada, in Tokyo, in Singapore, and in Greece, who even though they may have not been people of color, they understand that there is a need for everyone's story to be told in a accurate, equal opportunity and a way and in a community. So I think for me, social media allows for me to connect with so many other people, and it allows for me to show to parents that if your kid feels like they're the only person in their school, whoever wants to go out there and make a change, they can look at Naomi, they can look at Madison, and they can look at me and receive hope and receive practical tools. So I think we need to create more of a space where parents can see that there are downsides to social media, but you also have to teach your kids and affirm to them that they are beautiful, that they are talented, that they are smart. So when they get online, they never feel attacked by these words that they know are not true, because they're like, I'm cute. You don't need to say anything, I'm cute. Like, so that's what we need to do.
Okay, so speaking of teaching parents, I mean, you love to read, you're very open about loving to read. A lot of kids not only don't love to read, they hate reading. Mm-hmm. And what do you think is a way to teach parents or teachers to create a book-friendly environment? Is it not pushing it on people? Is it less technology? What is it? What do you think?
So I think the first thing is that we need to talk to kids. So a lot of the times, parents use phrases like, go to your room and read, or get off your phone and read. But by taking something that a kid enjoys to do, and then saying reading is what you should be doing instead, it automatically sets a negative tone around reading and around educating themselves. So I think what parents need to do is, if their kid doesn't like to read, be like, I don't read that much either. Show to them and have practical tips. Like if you are a person who doesn't always read, but your kid, you really, really want them to read in front of them, read with them. Tell them, oh, did you see that news article that was about this and this and this? Try to engage them in conversations so they feel like they're having the same opportunities you are to read and to be their best self. And I also think for parents who have kids who are just not into following always the directions and are not always interested in educating themselves, think about movies. We have so many other methods where books are taken to new medias. So The Outsiders, for example, even though that is a book just starring a white boy, and I already have problems with books that only star white boys, but the thing is, about The Outsiders, there's a movie. There's a movie. So what you can do for kids is they can watch those movies. They can see those characters, and they can compare them to books.
Right.
So we have Harry Potter. We have a lot of books starring Black girls that are now being put into adaptations. So when they come out, just like Melody, 1963 for Freedom, starring a friend of mine, Marseille Martin. She is a star in that movie, and it's also a book. So people can see the doll, they can have the t-shirts, they can have the hat, they can have the skirt, they can read the book, they can see the movie. And it shows that reading is connected to the rest of our world. And that if you're not reading, you ain't cool. You're not doing what everybody else is doing. So it's what I think is to encourage parents to show them that reading is interconnected and that it's a part of our interpersonal interactions whether we know it or not.
Amazing. Thank you. What?
Is it?
We're doing a dance now.
Because we all came up with a group question we wanted to ask you. Uh-oh. So I think there's one more question, but we can.
I have to go. It was lovely to talk with all of you.
So okay, we're gonna do a little huddle.
So the weather.
Yeah, we're good.
Break. Okay. Our question to you is: we were seeing you backstage. You were posing with the photographer. You were like,
yes,
and then we saw this like beautiful, shimmery Planned Parenthood pin, and you didn't tell us enough about it. So tell us, kind of, you're an actress, you're fancy, all that stuff, Screen Actors Guild, but we want to know about.
Roasted.
Yeah. Right. We want to know about your activism and how you engage in your community and help other young girls like us.
Sure. I heard Gloria Steinem speak once, and she said something that was so profound. She said, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And it was particularly, I think it resonated with me as someone who I get really overwhelmed by how much wrong and how much bad there is in the world. You guys give me hope, but I get overwhelmed, and I think myself and a lot of other people, I look around and I want to do something, but there's so much to be done. Where do you start? And that quote forced me to look inside and locate the thing that I've always been passionate about and I always have cared about, which is reproductive health and women's rights. And that's how I began my work with Planned Parenthood. It's an organization that's been around for 100 years fighting for access to reproductive health and sexual health and most importantly to me, it's a place that replaces fear with fact and misinformation with education.
Shade. Shade. Shade.
Wig snap.
So, thank you for your question. You guys are sneaky ladies. Okay, so on that, where did you guys locate your passions? You guys have so many, I know, but between like addressing a lack of diversity in literature, gun control, political activism, where did you locate those passions?
I'll go. Okay. Well, we're going to reverse it.
We'll reverse it, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, my parents had always encouraged me that reading was important. So from a young age, anybody who stepped, and I'm saying young from being 13, but anyone who stepped into our house, they would have to read a book to me when I was younger. So I realized that like my Uncle Devin and my TT Adriana, they all had to read me books. So it just became like, I get books for Christmas, I get books for my birthday, and it became an adventure. So when I was like 3, we would get books that were $3.99, and then when I became 9, we would get books that were $9.99. Now I'm 13, so my dad buys the books, not my mom, and they're $13.99, and they get even more expensive than that as we get into like YA and adult. But I'd always know that reading was something, whatever I wanted to do, if it was singing, if I wanted to become a dancer, a basketball player, a lacrosse player, reading was always something I did for fun. And it had been shown to me, and it's, again, my advice to parents, that reading was a good thing. Like, it was something that I could do, and I could gain something new every single time. And it made me feel like I had so much more power than I did before. So for me, locating my passion was about having an open space and creating an open space for myself to be like, maybe you want to do this right now, maybe you want to do this later, but now reading is always there for me. I will always have something that I cannot get from any other experience in the books that I read. So I was able to see that, and I was able to locate my passion and also discuss it when my parents were like, you want to start something, you want to help people, how can you do that with the things that you love? And I decided that reading was something I really cared about. And right now I have like a book in my purse that I brought here. Like I have like 3, when I went to a book festival, I took like 3 million signed copies, and I was just like huddling over them the entire time. So I love reading, and I also encourage other kids who are kind of like iffy on reading to try something new. Keep trying it out, keep trying, and read what you want to write one day.
For me, I think it was kind of similar, and I had a very nurturing environment within my family of kind of participation and education. There's videos of me as like a 2-year-old running up to the television when Bush was president going like, Bush, Bush. So I've definitely always been interested, and so that translated very easily into involvement. And I just started by just going to rallies and reading the news, watching the news, things like that. And I finally found an issue with pre-registration that was affecting my friends at the time, even though I was 12. It was affecting my friends at the time. It was going to affect me the soonest out of the issues in that bill. So I just kind of ran with it, and I started going to events specifically around that. And that was when Moral Monday rallies were happening in North Carolina every single week. I learned so much going to those. There were so many issues that I didn't even know existed. Like, I didn't even know they were issues at the time, and that really got me involved in local things as well. So it was easy to just kind of run with it when it came from education and involvement to actual activism.
So my support group, it's really gotten me involved. So when I was 3 and I was learning to read, and I noticed that all my favorite princesses were blonde with blue eyes, and I noticed that all my favorite characters were white. That's when I went to my parents and we talked about it. If my parents hadn't already told me and I'd seen it on the news, I would ask my parents about it, and they would sit me down and we would talk about it. And at the end of every conversation, I'd be like, I want to do something. And so, really, and I've always had this stigma embedded into me that you can do whatever you want to do, and if you find an interest in it, just do it. And so I found an interest in when I heard after Parkland, and I really started thinking, I'm noticing this huge tidal wave from all the students across the country, and they're taking a stand, and this isn't adult-led. This isn't an adult thing. So this is a youth thing. This is something that we are coming together and that we are overcoming. And so that's when I decided I'm going to do something. So it was the March for Our Lives that really got me involved. After my speech, I had never spoken to that big of an audience. So after that, I decided that I wanted to continue the work that I was doing.
I'm sure you three have many ambitions in your life, so I'm not going to ask you what your ambition is. It's like when someone's like, what's your favorite book, or what's your favorite movie? You're like, there's so many. You guys have so many. But what is an ambition in your life that you can pinpoint?
I think for me, the biggest ambition is changing institutions. So for me, in school, school is a big institution I'm a part of, and I think for me right now, as a person that goes to public school, I am in the 8th grade, I start high school next year, I'm interacting with so many different people and different opinions, and it's really important for me to have kids who may be frustrated about something, they have passions, they have ideas, but to create spaces for us to feel as though in our communities, in our homes, in our schools, and with our teachers, we can speak out about what we feel, even if they disagree with what I have to say, or they aren't always in tune with what everybody else thinks. Kids should be allowed to speak their minds and to speak their truth from education, from knowledge, and from lack of ignorance and hate from each other. And a lot of the times kids feel powerless. So to me, and being on this panel is really important, is to show that all of us have unique ideas from unique places that we're from. And to me, that ambition is growing those ideas and building them up so that we can all rise to the top and help other kids who are in the next generation of people who want to help change this world.
I think mine, and I kind of touched on it earlier, is breaking the stereotype that young people are entirely apathetic when it comes to involvement, specifically in politics and within our democracy. Because similarly, I think we need to have those places that we can make a difference, and we're encouraged to make a difference, and our ambition is nurtured instead of sit down, you're a girl, look pretty. And I think that just being able to build those safe spaces and just breaking down the barrier that we're just young activists, that we all, because I think from when I started, when I was 12, I was very much just like, oh, that's nice, you're a young person and you're an activist, that's great, so cute, keep going, good work. But it was never focused on my issues, and it was never focused on what I cared about. And I think that that's a big hurdle that we haven't broken down yet, and so that's what I would like to work to do in creating more of an open dialogue between young people and adults, so that it's not just about our age, but it's about the issues and the actual facts and our information.
Amazing.
Oh, I have thousands. But One important one that really registers and sets with me is inspiring and educating Black women and Black girls on their own worth, so that they don't grow up so that they don't grow up and never amount or never believe or think that they can amount to what they truly are. So I would definitely encourage them that you are you and you are beautiful. Anybody touches your hair, you snap at them. And that you can change the world. You can be the first Black president, Black woman president. Obama. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be a designer, you can be a leader, you can be an activist, you can be anything that you want to be. And I would definitely encourage white women to stand with Black women and to lift each other up and encourage each other.
All right. I want to thank Tory Burch and the Tory Burch Foundation for hosting this inspiring day, this inspiring summit. It's a day to remind us that this isn't a moment, this is a movement, and we should all follow in Marley, Madison, and Naomi's leads. So thank you guys so much. You make me...
Get up!
You guys